I want to make America healthy again, and so does President Trump.
Good.
Those are objectives.
We need that.
These races at the moment in the 7 battleground states are close. So a couple of thousand votes this direction or that direction matter. So his endorsement, that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s endorsement of Trump, is significant because this is such a close election at the moment.
The stakes this November couldn't be higher, which is exactly why my whole family will be fighting so hard to re-elect Kamala Harris and Coach Waltz, who've been champions for the values that my family has fought for years.
Robert F. Kennedy also out there over the weekend, and he is now explaining that he is going to be actively campaigning with President Trump. That's going to be good news. Here's what he said when he was out making the rounds over the weekend. He was on with Fox News Sunday. Here's RFK Jr.
Campaigning actively, I think President Trump is going to make a series of announcements about other Democrats who are joining his campaign. And, I want to make America healthy again, and so does President Trump.
Good.
Those are objectives.
We need that.
The Wall Street Journal may be worried about shareholder value for pharmaceutical companies. And I think, I talked specifically to President Trump about that issue. And he said that he wanted to leave as his legacy healthy children, and that he was unconcerned about the other implications.
Amazing. That's his legacy. Unconcerned about the other implications, right? So there's going to be a lot of very angry people who want to pump us all full of seed oils every single day, and they're going to be very upset with President Trump for not allowing them to do that anymore. Now he's going to have Kennedy joining him in that battle, and I think Kennedy is a very, very credible figure on this. Very credible figure. He's been fighting it for a long time. I've watched many of his talks about this. I've seen him speak about this in person, and he's very passionate about it, and he can answer basically any question about it. I've seen many people lob tons of questions at him. He's an expert on it. So we see that Kennedy's going to be out there. Now, the big question is, what does this mean for the election? Will RFK Jr. be a big boost to Trump? Well, Nate Silver says no. Some people call him Nate Bronze. But here is what his analysis says. And he says, like everything else about this presidential campaign, the withdrawal from the race was a little bit weird. Says Kennedy endorsed Trump, said he was suspending his campaign, but he'll only attempt to remove his name in 10 states, leaving himself on the ballot in many other red states and blue states. And he spent a lot of time and money to qualify there. Now, there are other places where it might be difficult to get his name off the ballot. Probably too late, he says, in Wisconsin, for instance. The first state to begin early voting, his name has already been physically printed on the ballots in around 30 counties, and so he's probably stuck there too. Under circumstances like these, sometimes the simple is the best. So we've changed RFK status in our model, and all they did is change a single cell in one spreadsheet. That's all they did. So before explaining the change, let me show you the impact. It says both Trump and Kamala have gained ground versus yesterday's model, the last one to include Kennedy. Harris's polling average has improved from 48% to 48.8%, and Trump has increased as well. Okay, so Kamala went up after the convention, and they say Trump went up after the, endorsement as well. So both are going up, but not much of a close between the two. There are a couple of essential things to note. First, Trump has gained slightly more, but it's minor. Second, we're seeing the beginnings of a convention bounce. Even with the Kennedy change, she's now ahead by 4 points in national polling. Our best guess is her lead will increase further. She gave a strong acceptance speech. All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, there's pretty much no change in the top line numbers. Harris is at 53%. And if you want to read more about the actual model, the technical details, you can go and subscribe to him. But that's his analysis. All right. So a lot of people go to him. A lot of people are still pointing to him as a reputable person analyzing these things. But they're saying, this other guy says it's going to be pretty significant. This is a presidential historian. He was over on CNN saying, yeah, it could be a pretty big deal, right? And again, I think it gives a lot of people cover. There's a lot of people out there who just, they're like, gosh, I just can't do it. I just can't go over and do it for Trump. If RFK Jr. is like, look, we have to. Okay. Like I ran against the guy. I've been running against him, but we have to. Sorry. It's time. I think a lot of people will say, okay, man, wow, all right. Yes, he's right. And I'm trying to think of another example where something like this has happened, but it was a, full-throated endorsement. He shredded the DNC. It's not like a milquetoast, just I'm kind of going to, resign. May the best man win between the two. He is coming after Kamala hard. And so we're going to have that now for the next 70 days or so. Here's what this historian on CNN says.
Campaign. How much of a difference, how much of a boost might a Kennedy endorsement of Trump give the former president?
This could be significant. His pulling out could be significant because he was taking more votes, potential votes from Trump than he was from Vice President Harris. But we don't know how many of the people who said they would vote for him will actually turn up on November 5th. What is clear, however, is these races at the moment in the 7 battleground states are close. So a couple of thousand votes this direction or that direction matter. So his endorsement, that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s endorsement of Trump, is significant because this is such a close election at the moment.
Yeah, and I also heard that there was, I think Kennedy said something about 57% of the people who were voting for him, 57% of those people would then leave his camp and vote for Trump versus the other half that would go to Kamala. So that's not a lot. Like, you'd like to see like 65 or 75%, but it's still more than half. And so he was thinking, if I stay in, I will be a spoiler in this campaign and Trump will ultimately win. So the Secret Service has stopped their protection for RFK. Now he has suspended his presidential campaign. So they're like, you're on your own, bro. Secret Service has ended its protection. Biden has instructed the agency, did instruct them to provide security last month after Trump almost got killed. Kennedy had publicly and privately lobbied for Secret Service for months, but they wanted him dead too. At one point, Kennedy's legal team claimed to have received evidence for 34 instances of threats against him. Obviously, his father and uncle were killed. Then Friday, RFK Jr., suspended but didn't terminate his campaign, showed up in Arizona. Law enforcement sources told the Post on Sunday that his Secret Service protection was ending after his bow out. So that's correct. Yeah, he's no longer getting protection. Secret Service typically gives protection to the president, VP, immediate, and others, and top presidential candidates when candidates drop out. Standard procedure for them to at least scale back protection, if not eliminate it altogether. And the Secret Service has been in hot water since someone got killed. Trump almost got killed. Kimberly Cheadle resigned, probably hanging out with Nathan Wade now in Belize. Kennedy camp did not respond to a Post request for comment on this, but he's got good security, and I've seen it in action, so hopefully he stays very safe. Now, this is fun. Kennedy's family is very unhappy with him. This woman is basically frothing at the mouth. You can see it in her face, the tension there. It's just furious. You can watch it with the volume off. You can just see it in her face right before you even listen to her. Just furious. Cannot believe that her brother is trying to save America. Such demented Democrat that they just can't fathom it. Very mad. Jules clipped this for us. Here's what she sounds like here.
But why do you feel so compelled to speak out at this moment?
You know, I think this is really, the stakes this November couldn't be higher, which is exactly why my whole family will be fighting so hard to reelect Kamala Harris and Coach Waltz, who've been champions for the values that my family has fought for years. Donald Trump is the polar opposite. Coach. He's a threat to most basic freedoms that are core to who we are as Americans, the right for women to control our bodies, the right to live in communities safe from gun violence, to love who you love. And I think if my dad were alive today, the real Robert Kennedy would have detested almost everything Donald Trump represents. His lying, his selfishness, his rage, his cynicism, hatred, racism, fascist sympathies, deliberate misinformation about vaccines, criminal felony convictions. Daddy was the Attorney General of the United States. His rape of E. Jean Carroll, his contempt for the poor and suffering, for ethics, democracy, healing.
Now she's reading a statement.
His cruel sneering at human rights for suffering of people in America and around the world. And these are the causes that was loved so passionately by the real Robert Kennedy. So I'm outraged and disgusted by my brother's gaudy and obscene embrace of Donald Trump. I completely...
Why are you mad, though, Carrie?
Out and separate and dissociate myself from Robert Kennedy Jr. in this flagrant and inexplicable effort to desecrate and trample and set fire to my father's memory.
Whoa! All right, so she is furious. Okay, so she obviously was reading from a statement there, but you could just see it in her eyes, man. Furious. You can see it in her face. Just rabid mad. And called him, I guess, a fake RFK Jr. and the real RFK Jr. was going to be rolling in his grave right now. Why? Because he's standing up for healthy kids and freedom, for free speech, and your party has turned into a bunch of totalitarian communists. Carrie's mad, man. So you can understand. This is a big deal. They feel it. They feel it in their bones. And now they're all coming out. We have to fight him back. And again, RFK Jr. has had a life of tremendous consequence, much more than Carrie ever has. And you can see why they're so upset about it. So the Kennedy family, man, frothing furious that their bro is changing the course of the election.